I walked into Dollar Tree with one rule: buy one of literally everything priced under $2, no skipping categories, no picking favorites, just one of each and see what happens. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what that trip actually cost, which sections were absolutely worth it, which ones I regretted the second I got home, and whether this challenge is actually worth trying yourself. If you're new here, this channel is all about finding real value at Dollar Tree, and today's video is a little different from our usual list format. So if that sounds fun, go ahead and hit subscribe before we get into it. Quick note on the rules before we start. Under $2 at Dollar Tree mostly means the $1.25 tier. But there are a handful of items creeping up toward the $2 mark in certain sections, and I included those too. I skipped anything perishable that I genuinely wouldn't use, like large quantities of a food item I don't eat, but otherwise I stuck to the rule as strictly as I could. Let's get into what actually happened. I started in the kitchen section, and this is where the challenge got expensive fast in a good way. I grabbed the ceramic mixing bowl, a set of silicone utensils, a glass storage container, a pour-over coffee filter, and a stack of dish towels. Every single one of these felt like a genuinely good grab on its own, and by the time I left just this one aisle, I'd already spent close to $9 without even trying, which honestly set the tone for how the rest of this challenge was going to go. Next was home decor, and this is where things got a little more mixed. The ceramic planter and the braided doormat were both excellent, easily items I would have paid 3 or 4 times as much for elsewhere. But I also grabbed a decorative sign that, once I got it home, just didn't fit anywhere in my space, and a candle in a scent that turned out to be way too strong for how small my living room actually is. Not every purchase in this section was a win, but the hits definitely outweighed the misses, and honestly, the doormat alone probably justified the whole aisle on its own. Then I hit the health and beauty aisle, and this is where I started noticing a real pattern. The reading glasses, a travel-size lotion, and a pack of cotton rounds were all genuinely useful and priced fairly for what they are. But a hair accessory I grabbed fell apart within about 10 minutes of me actually trying to use it, which was honestly the first real letdown of the entire trip, and it made me start paying closer attention to which categories were holding up and which ones weren't. The office and school supplies aisle was next, and this section might have been the best value of the entire challenge. A notebook, a pack of pens, a folder, and a small stapler all worked exactly as expected, no complaints at all, and the combined cost for all 4 items together was still under $5, which genuinely felt like the best dollar-for-dollar value of anything I picked up all day. I moved through the party supplies section next, grabbing a pack of balloons, a roll of streamers, and a set of paper plates. These are the kinds of items where the price makes total sense given how infrequently most people actually use them, and none of these felt like a compromise compared to buying the same thing anywhere else. The toy aisle was a mixed bag, and I want to be upfront about that. I grabbed a small puzzle, a coloring book, and a basic toy car. The puzzle and coloring book were genuinely solid, but the toy car had a wheel that didn't spin properly right out of the package, which was disappointing given it was meant to be a quick, low-stakes purchase. And it's exactly the kind of small mechanical failure that tends to show up more often in this specific category. Pet supplies came next, and I grabbed a small chew toy and a food dish. Both were completely fine. Nothing exciting, but nothing that felt like a waste of money either, which honestly describes a lot of this challenge overall. By the time I made it to the seasonal and craft section, I'd been in the store for well over an hour and I grabbed a small craft kit and a picture frame. The picture frame in particular felt like one of the better finds of the entire trip. Sturdy, nicely finished, and something I genuinely use rather than just something I bought because the rules of the challenge told me to, which honestly made it one of the more satisfying purchases toward the end of a long shopping trip. I finished up in the electronics and hardware aisle, grabbing a phone charging cable, a pack of batteries, and a small flashlight. This is actually the one section where I'd caution against buying blind the way this challenge required. Since we've talked before on this channel about why some of these specific categories are worth spending a little more on elsewhere, and this trip reinforced that. The batteries were fine, but the charging cable felt noticeably flimsy compared to a properly certified one. So here's the final tally. All in, I walked out with 26 individual items, and the total came out to just under $34 before tax. Breaking that down, I genuinely repurchased about 20 of those 26 items without hesitation. 4 of them were fine but forgettable, the kind of thing I'll use up and not think twice about. And 2 of them, the toy car and the hair accessory, were genuine letdowns that I probably wouldn't grab again. So what does a success rate like that actually tell us? Roughly 77% of everything I bought under $2 turned out to be a genuinely solid purchase, which is a higher hit rate than I expected going in. It's also worth noting that the categories with the highest success rate, kitchen, office supplies, and party goods, are exactly the categories that don't rely heavily on moving parts, batteries, or precise manufacturing tolerances. The lower performing categories, toys with small mechanisms and electronics, are the same categories that tend to show up on lists of things worth skipping at a dollar store, which lines up with a pattern we've covered before on this channel. Breaking it down even further, every single failure I ran into today involved either a moving mechanical part, like the toy car's wheel, or a manufacturing tolerance issue, like the hair accessory and the charging cable. Not a single static, simple item, a bowl, a towel, a frame, a notebook, gave me any trouble at all. That's honestly the clearest pattern to come out of this entire challenge. And it lines up almost exactly with what you'd expect once you think about which categories require tighter manufacturing precision to actually function properly. It's also worth thinking about this challenge in terms of what it actually replaces. A comparable mix of kitchen basics, office supplies, and party goods purchased individually across a grocery store, an office supply store, and a party store would have easily run over $150, probably more once you account for the markup most specialty retailers charge on party and craft supplies specifically. Even factoring in the 2 genuine misses, walking out having spent under $34 for that much practical value is hard to argue with, and it's honestly a more convincing case for shopping this way than any individual product review could make on its own. There's also a time value angle worth mentioning that I didn't fully appreciate until I sat down to add everything up. Getting kitchen basics, office supplies, party goods, pet items, and craft supplies all in one single store trip rather than driving to 4 or 5 different specialty retailers saves a genuinely meaningful amount of time on top of the money saved. That convenience factor doesn't show up in a simple dollar comparison, but it's a real part of the overall value this challenge revealed. So should you actually try this challenge yourself? If you do, I'd suggest a couple of adjustments based on what I learned. First, skip anything with a battery, small moving part, or safety certification requirement unless you're specifically willing to gamble on it, since that's where almost all of my disappointments came from today. Sticking to static, simple items dramatically improves your odds based on everything I saw firsthand during this trip. Second, don't feel obligated to buy one of literally everything the way I did for this video, since a modified version where you skip categories you already know aren't strong at Dollar Tree, like electronics accessories, will push your success rate up significantly. This challenge works best as a way to explore the full range of what's available, but a smarter, more targeted version of it is genuinely the better approach for your actual shopping trips going forward. And third, budget for at least a couple of misses no matter what. Since even with a 77% hit rate, a small handful of letdowns is basically guaranteed anytime you're buying blind across this many categories at once. Going in with realistic expectations makes the whole experience feel like a win rather than a disappointment. Since a couple $2 misses barely register, once you look at the full picture of everything else that worked out. If you found this challenge interesting, let me know in the comments which category you think would have the best hit rate at your local store. Because I have a feeling this varies more than people expect depending on which specific location you're shopping at. Make sure you're subscribed because I'm already planning a follow-up where I try this exact same challenge but limit myself to just the $2 and up items to see if the hit rate actually improves. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.